Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Mahaprabhu ki Tananita Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Mahaprabhu ki Tananita Gita Romanchakam Pasu Taranga Bhajo Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratanma Niramarjanado Shri Vigrahara Nana Yuktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatapi Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasada Satana Truptam Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidashi Bhagavat Prasada Sadhana Kirtan Kridvaiva Trupti Bhajata Shariva Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Shiradikama Gavayara Para Madhura Leela Gunarupa Namna Shiradikama Para Madhura Leela Pratikchanasra Dhanalalupasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Ne kunjayono Ratikeli Siddhai Rajali Virjukti Apekshaneya Nikunjayuna Ratikeli Siddhai Rajali Tatrati Daksha Ativalavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam. Sakshadharitena Shamasta Shastre Ruktastathava Gataiva Sadhavi. Kintu Pravarja Priyaeva Tasya Vande Gudashi Charanaravrindam. Yasya prasada Bhagavat prasada Yasya prasadam Nagati kutapi. Yasya prasada Sada Yasya prasada Dayam subham tata Yasatrin sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam. Dhyayam stuvam tasya yasatrin sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam. Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Mine. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachata Deshata Rine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachata Deshata. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Haribo, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Ram Hare Nama Krishna Jadavaye Nama Jadavaye Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattara Guna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasara Guna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Shri Radha Nila Madhava Radha Nila Madhava Radhe Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama Jaya Sudarshan Chakra Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman Nitai Gaur Haribo Nitai Gaur Haribo Nitai Gaura Premanande Haribo Jai Vishwapar Paramsa Prabhajikacharya Sitra Sri Shima Sabhacharya Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai ISKCON Pratishta Viviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnav Siramani Paritapavana Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Gaurya Guru Vargapati Udhar Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrindi Ki Jai Prem Siko Ho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar शिव श्री गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। प्रेम नाम संकीर्तने जना का प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद श्रीमन गुरु श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावरण अवतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जय की जय। जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहद मिदांग ट्रांसडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। शिष्य राधा कृष्ण गोप गुप्ता राधा कुंज समकुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रज वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय। द लॉर्डशिप श्री श्री राधा नील माधव की जय। श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुण श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम चित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु श्रीमती सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन करुण सिंहरे भगवान की जय। गंगा माँ जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंदी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्रीमती राधारानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौरी प्रमानंदे। All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga.
Singhaya Praladadaine Praladadaine Hiranyakashipurvaksha Hiranyakashipurvaksha Shilatankana Yato yamitato nasimha Yato yamitato nasimha Bahe nasimha Hridaye nasimha Nasimha Hridaye nasimha Narasimha madim sharanam tapade Narasimha madim sharanam tapade Avakara Keshavadita गुरुदेव भगवान की जय, प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो अभिलाषी जे तोमार शरण लोय तारा वांछ पूर्ण होय कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोराए बिलास कुंज दियो बास नयने रिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि निवेदन धरो सखीरानुगत कोरो सेवादि करो दिए करो निज दासी दीना कृष्ण दास कोय ए नमोरा होय श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा येन बासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा येन बासी यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय भक्ति देवी Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय।
Beloved of Krishna, I bow for your given. My desire is not to service Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of me has been useful, bestowing their mercy upon me, resident of Vrindavan. My desire is also behind me, and the pleasure growth of Shri, thus within my vision.
I beg to make me follow characteristics of God. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. Very fallen and lowly servant Krishna, please. May I always sing Lord Shri Radha, Govind, Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Vrindi Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastatam Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanam Majanam Tava Mahadavani Nivapanam Shreyakari Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidya Bhathu Jevanam Ananda Mudi Vadanam Patipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnam Param Param Jayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bhavdha Jasava Shaktis Tatra Pitanya Mitra Shmarane Nakala Itadusi Tava Kripaya Bhagavanamapi Durdaivam Idrishamya Jani Nanuraga Vinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amani Namaharena Kirtaniya Sadahari Adhanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Bhajagari Sakamaye Mama Janmane Janmaneshwari Bhavatar Bhakti Rahaitu Tvai Ainandatanu Jakinkaram Paritamam Vishame Bhavambudo Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sitaduli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galara Shrudharaya Vadanam Gadagadharudaya Gira Pulakari Chitamba Pukada Tavanam Agrahane Bhavishyati Jugahitam Nimishena Chakusha Prabhusha Itam Shunya Itam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahe Name Asli Shava Padaratam Pinastumam Adarshnar Marmahatam Karatuva Jata Tathava Vidadhatulam Pato Marpranatastu Saivanapara Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kristakam ki jai. Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Vishnu. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart over the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire condition of life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is no even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer our respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, some rather I am fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at the lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? Or will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kristakam ki jai. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1, to blaspheme the devotees who dedicated life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2, to consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahman to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4, to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6, to give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7, to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8, to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often Vedas as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9, to instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10, to not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls.
Shri Guru Pranama prayers kiche Om Aganyati Mirandasya Salakaya Chaksurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manuvistam Sapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Chitaha Pajikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tatam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagna Lalita Shri Visakhar Vitamsa Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Govam Vicharane Nirvishesha Srivadi Vaskati Vasicharane Namaste Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamane Shri Vasavanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhu Ujjvala Primadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigraya Namaste Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Mantaharine Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhade Padamba Jayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandanamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhava Pumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvapuma Sri Janagatayate Namaha Manchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patittanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabodhanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurichuse Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surator Pangur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvaswa Padambujo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpadramadaha Shrimad Ratnagara Simasanastito Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswanir Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakarasat Masukha Pariksha Laksha Vrite Susarabi Rabipali Antam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kananda Ravinda Dalayataksam Parhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpa Kotika Maniya Vishesha Sobam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Chibangala Litani Taprakasam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakilendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vede Sadurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastukoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Muni Pungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatum Jagadanda Kotim Yaschakti Rasti Jagadanda Chaya Yadanta Andanta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Rastam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Busa Saha Suktaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Bhistabirya Eva Nicharupa Tayakalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Nedatista Nana Avatara Makarod Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumam Yogo Vindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagaranda Kotim Kotis Vasesu Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahman Niskalam Anantam Asesa Bhutam Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Mayahi Yasya Jagaranda Satani Sute Dragunya Tad Vishaya Vida Vidayamanam Sattva Valambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu Ya Pranilam Patifalam Smaratam Upetya Lilaya Tena Bhuvanani Jaya Yajasram Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijadamni Tarecha Tasya Devi Mahesu Aridama Sute Sutesu Tete Prabhava Nichaya Vitashta Yena Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shastista Te Pralaya Sadhava Sakti Reka Jayevi Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Yasya Chachesta Tesa Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Divikara Visesa Yoga Sanjaya Tena Hitata Pritakasti Heto Yasambhutama Pitata Samapaitikar Yat Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Departure Devi Hita Santana Mabhyapetya Dipaya Devi Vita Hita Samana Dharma Yastadra Kevi Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga Yindaram Ananta Jagaranda Saroma Kupaha Adhara Saktim Avalambya Paramsma Murtim Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Niswasita Kalamatavalam Yajivanti Loma Vilaja Jagannadanata Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kala Visesu Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pasmanya Tasma Sakalesu Nijesu Teja Hasriyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitabdatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanda Karta Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dwande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Maruddhi Sascha Kalasta Tatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschaksuresa Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Teja Yasyagara Pramati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichasutayastapam Si Brahmadi Kita Patagava Dayasta Jivaha Yadata Matari Bhava Prakata Prabhava Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrinda Gopra Matavendra Mahoswakarma Bandana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidati Kintichu Bhakti Bhajam Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Kroda Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Biti Vatsalya Moha Guru Guru Sevya Bhava Sanchintya Tasha Sadrasim Talamapurete Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Tabaro Durmabu Mishchintamani Ganama Itoyam Amritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriyasaki Chiranandam Jyoti Parama Pitada Swadyam Apicha Sayacha Siradi Bhishavati Srabi Byashcha Sumahan Nime Sardakyo Bhava Jatina Hiyatrapit Samaya Pajay Swita Dusham Tamaham Iha Golakamitiam Vidanta Ste Santak Suti Viracharakatipa Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha and Adiradi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Shri Brahmasamita Ki Jai Shri Guru Vastaka Prayers Ki Jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I, from my respectful basis, unto Lotus Street is such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities, chanting the holy name, dancing, ecstasy, singing, and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always engaged in it, led by the Sanctuary of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I, from my respectful basis, unto Lotus Feet is such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I, from my respectful basis, unto Lotus Feet is such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is lit, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful basis unto Lotus Feet is such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual
spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. However, my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street is such spiritual master. Spiritual master is very dear because he has assisting gopis who at different times with different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal love and Krishna. Within the groves of Vrindavan, offer my most humble obeisance unto Lotus Street is such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lotus Street is such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lotus Street of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Haribol. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, verse number 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shemam Shakaschit Yuyudana Aste. Yafal Gunal Labdadanu Rahasya. Lebe Anjasad Dukshalja Sevayaiva Gatim Tadiyam Yatibidurapam. Shemam, all good. Sa, he. Kaschit, whether. Yuyudana, Satyayaki. Aste, is there. Ya, one who. Falgunad, from Arjuna. Labda, has achieved. Danu Rahasya, one who understands the intricacies of military art. Lebe, right, Lebe, also achieved. Anjasa, summarily. Ahoksaja, of the transcendence. Sevaya, by service. Eva, certainly. Gatim, destination. Tadiyam, transcendental. Yati be, by great renouncers. Durapam, very difficult to achieve. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O Uddhava, does Yuyudana fare well? He learned the intricacies of the military art from Arjuna and attained the transcendental destination, which is very difficult to reach even for great renouncers. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The destination of transcendence is to become the personal associate of the personality of Godhead, who is known as Ahoksaja, he who is beyond the reach of the senses. The renouncers of the world, the sannyasis, give up all worldly connections, namely family, wife, children, friends, home, wealth, everything, to attain the transcendental bliss of Brahman happiness. The empiric philosophers enjoy a transcendental quality of bliss by philosophical speculation on the supreme truth. But beyond that, pleasure is the pleasure enjoyed by Brahman in his eternal form of the personality of Godhead. Brahman bliss is enjoyed by living entities after liberation from material bondage. But Para Brahman, the personality of Godhead, enjoys eternally a bliss of his own potency, which is called the Hiladini potency. The empiric philosopher who studies Brahman by negation of the external features has not yet learned the quality of the Hiladini potency of Brahman. Out of many potencies of the omnipotent, there are 3 features of his internal potency, namely Samvid, Sandini, and Hladini. And in spite of their strict adherence to the principles of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Dhyana, Dharana, and Pranayama, this should also be Pratyahara and Samadhi, the great yogis and jnanis are unable to enter into the eternal potency of the Lord. This internal potency is, however, easily realized by the devotees of the Lord by dint of devotional service. Yuyudana achieved this stage of life just as he achieved expert knowledge in military science from Arjuna. Thus his life was successful to the fullest extent from both the material and spiritual angles of vision. That is the way of devotional service to the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Uddhava, does Yuyudana fare well? He learned the intricacies of the military art from Arjuna and attained the transcendental destination, which is very difficult to reach even for great renouncers. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is a very revealing purport because it shows different levels of achieving happiness, going up to the highest level, which is unknown to even the great yogis, the jnanis, and the great renouncers, and the karma yogis. All of them are oblivious to the highest level of transcendental bliss. And it's something that Lord Chaitanya came to specifically reveal. Unfortunately, most people, even if they hear about it, they don't want it because they're so contaminated by the desire to lord it over material nature and try and exploit and control material nature, which is impossible. So, therefore, due to their recalcitrance, that's a great word, recalcitrance, they try to achieve something that is impossible and ignore something that is much, much easier and much more direct to attain the perfection of life and the highest transcendental pleasure. So, therefore, it's important to know the meaning of a hokshaja. A hokshaja means it's beyond the purview of direct experience. It is, in other words, it's beyond empiricism. Empiricism means whatever you can learn with your senses. Now, all the science is based on empiricism. How much can you learn with your senses? Very little. You can learn some things, but it's very little. And compared to the ocean of transcendental bliss, that is Vaikuntha and Goloka Vrindavan especially. So, people don't know what is the actual destination of transcendence. And Prabhupada says the destination of transcendence is to become the personal associate of the personality of Godhead, who is known as a hokshaja, he who is beyond the reach of the senses. This is a very important statement because why do people want to do something that's impossible? Only because they have been sinful in their life. That's why they want to do something that's impossible. And that's why it's very important to learn what the laws of nature are. A synonym of laws of nature is the rules and regulations that God is giving. And another synonym of it is the plan of God. So if we know what the plan of God is, and we realize that we have no choice but to accept, to understand these laws of nature, the Dharma. Dharma means what you is occupational duty, and Sanatana Dharma is your eternal occupational duty. That eternal, so our Dharma is we have to work to survive, to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. You have to work to do that. And if you give up, then you become like someone who's homeless and self-destructive. Like the other day, 2 days ago, we fed people that live in a special building built by the city of Renton for homeless people or people who have mental problems that are not so severe, but still they have mental problems, and people who have drug addiction and so forth. Well, some of the people are, you would say, almost normal. Some of the people are challenged, and some people are really crazy, but not dangerously crazy. There's really crazy, not dangerous, and there's really crazy, very dangerous. So those three categories of people live in this building. The ones that are really, the ones who are somewhat dangerous are also self-destructive. You can see them smoking, talking nonsense, and lazy, just hanging around. Some of them are sort of okay. They have some problem, that's why they're there, but they're sort of okay. And I talked to one of those people that was sort of okay. In fact, there were two of them that I talked to, and I was able to preach to them, and they were able to understand something. One of them said he's an atheist, so, but he really appreciated the food truck and what we were doing. And he asked a lot of questions. He was smart. He was a very educated person. He just had some problems in life. He came to the United States legally, but then he overstayed, and he doesn't want to go back, so he got help from the city of Renton to sort of have a little bit of a refuge where he can stay even though he's illegal, right? And then, but he was smart. He had a lot of analysis. He was somewhat of a philosopher. So when he started talking philosophy with me, he got shocked because he suddenly realized I knew a lot about the philosophy of life, of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. And finally, in the end, I told him I was a priest, and that sort of shocked him a little bit. But then he said, I want to come and see you at your farm and talk to you about God. So is he going to come to try and convince me there's no God, or is he going to come and let me convince him that there is God? That's the next question. But you see, even in a place like that, where you would expect people who are, let's say, the most indigenous, challenged by normal life and are not able to compete for a myriad number of reasons, but yet they're interested, some of them are interested in spiritual life and knowing some path by which they can become liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So here it says, Krishna is a hokshaja. So to understand someone who's beyond the purview, look at that word purview, P-U-R-V-I-E-W, purview of human perception with our senses. That means you can't see him, you can't touch him, you can't smell him. He's so far, distant. But yet, there is a way of seeing, touching, and smelling and perceiving the Lord. And it's very easy. But people won't accept it. What's it mean?
Range of experience or thought.
Exactly. So when I say beyond the purview, they can't imagine a personality like Krishna who's transcendental and all-powerful. So he says, but a hokshaja happiness, he says, the renouncers of the world, the sannyasis, give up all worldly connections, namely family, wife, children, friends, home, wealth, everything, to attain the transcendental bliss of Brahman happiness. But a hokshaja happiness is beyond Brahman happiness. The empiric philosophers enjoy a transcendental quality of bliss by philosophical speculation on the supreme truth. But beyond that pleasure is the pleasure enjoyed by Brahman in his eternal form of the personality of Godhead. So he's used the word Brahman how many times there? 1, 2, 3, 4, and ultimately 5. Why is he doing that? Because there are different levels of Brahman realization. So Vedanti Tattvaritas Tattvam Yajganam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Sabhyate. So you see, there are different levels of Brahman realization. It's not just one. The Mayavadis eliminate 3 levels and talk about just one. And that's their shortcoming. That's their parochial vision, limited vision. And beyond that are other levels of Brahman that they refuse to accept. Therefore, they will, even if they do achieve Brahman realization in the first step, which is Brahma Jyoti, they will fall down because they reject the other levels of Brahman realization, which is Paramatma and Bhagavan, Krishna, and ultimately Param Brahman, Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. So it says, the empiric philosophers, empiric means they only rely on their senses for gathering information, okay? Their senses and their mind. The empiric philosophers enjoy a transcendental quality of bliss by philosophical speculation on the supreme truth. But that pleasure is the pleasure enjoyed by Brahman in his eternal, but beyond that pleasure is the pleasure enjoyed by Brahman in his eternal form of the personality of Godhead. Okay, so he talked first about the renouncers of the world, the sannyasis. They give up everything to attain transcendental bliss of Brahman happiness, meaning Brahma Jyoti. Okay? And then he says, the empiric philosophers enjoy a transcendental quality of bliss by philosophical speculation on the supreme truth. So they get what you call is, they also are aiming for the Brahma Jyoti, but they're through speculation and so forth, and they get pleasure out of speculating. Brahman bliss is enjoyed by living entities after liberation from material bondage. Okay, so if you do it through renunciation, or if you do it through philosophy and speculation, fine, you might be able to reach the Brahman bliss or Brahma Jyoti. But Para Brahman, the personality of Godhead, enjoys eternally a bliss of his own potency, which is called Hladini potency. The empiric philosopher who studies Brahman by negation of the external features has not yet learned the quality of Hladini potency of Brahman. And this is what Lord Chaitanya came to reveal to the world, the Hladini. Hladini is referring to Srimati Radharani and the gopis. Their unalloyed, exclusive love for Krishna, and it's very, very elevated. It's the highest elevation of love of God. Okay, so then it says, out of many potencies of the omnipotent, there are 3 features of his internal potency, namely Samvit, Sandini, and Hladini. So that means eternity, bliss, and knowledge. So there's eternity, okay, all of us have an eternal soul, whether we realize it or not. So that in that way we are equal to Krishna. Eternity, knowledge, we can attain transcendental knowledge, but Krishna will always have more knowledge than we do. But still, qualitatively, we are one with him also in knowledge. But his knowledge is always expanding, and our knowledge cannot expand. We always are doing catch-up, let's put it like that, to Krishna. We can't go beyond Krishna, but we're following Krishna. And then bliss also is always increasing in the spiritual world. So we partake in it, but we can't surpass Krishna. It's only by Krishna's mercy that we can experience the transcendental bliss of love of God. Okay, so in a sense, the gopis may be, especially Radharani, surpasses Krishna in the aspect of bliss. That's why he appears as a combination of Radha and Krishna in order to experience Radharani's transcendental bliss that he realizes surpasses his own bliss. Right? So this is very interesting to explain Lord Chaitanya. He is if you want to look at it in a mundane way, or if you want to explain it in more mundane, for mundane people to understand, he's a combination of a man and a woman. I mean, the transgender people will go crazy over him, because he is something that they want to imitate. Right? Of course, they can't imitate Lord Chaitanya, but Lord Chaitanya is experiencing. He appears as Lord Chaitanya. Krishna appears as Lord Chaitanya to experience the transcendental bliss of Srimati Radharani, because he can't do it. Just like there are two people, so one person is in transcendental ecstasy and another person isn't. How are they going to experience the transcendental ecstasy of the person who's in that ecstasy? They would have to take the position of that person. So that's what Krishna does with Radharani. So, the empiric philosopher who studies Brahman by negation of the external features has not yet learned the quality of the Haladini potency of Brahman. So, by the process of neti, the truth is not this, it's not that, it's not this, it's not that, it's not this, it's not that. That's negation. And therefore, by that process of negation, one can never experience the Haladini or internal potency of love of Krishna represented by Srimati Radharani. It's impossible. You cannot negate everything, which is what the Mayavadis do. In other words, they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater, as they say in English. Someone's bathing the baby, and then afterwards they got to get rid of the water, so they go like this, but they throw the baby out also with the bathwater. That's what the Mayavadis are doing. By their absolute negation, they're also negating Krishna and the spiritual world, and etc. And in spite of their strict adherence to the principles of yama, niyama, asana, dhyana, dharana, and pranayama, the great yogis and jnanis are unable to enter into the internal potency of the Lord. This internal potency is, however, easily realized by the devotees of the Lord by dint of devotional service. Duryodhana achieved this stage of life just as he achieved expert knowledge in military science from Arjuna. Thus, his life was successful to the fullest extent from both the material and spiritual angles of vision. That is the way of devotional service to the Lord. So if we want to know what real success is exemplified by Duryodhana. He was perfectly successful in material life and perfectly successful in spiritual life, both. Right? Now, this is also explained in places. If you look in Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter, verse number 6 and 7, Prabhupada quotes a verse from the Narayaniya. And it says, this 12th chapter, 6th and 7th verse. Yavai sadhana sampati purusartha chatustaye taya vina tadapnoti naro narayanasraya. The purport of this verse is that one should not engage in the different processes of fruitive activity or cultivate knowledge by the mental speculative process. Okay, so you just eliminated those two categories of people that Prabhupada spoke about. They are the speculators and the renouncers, right? He spoke about the renouncers and the speculators. And now he says, One who is devoted to the Supreme Personality can attain all the benefits derived from other yogic processes, speculation, rituals, sacrifices, charity, etc. That is the specific benediction of devotional service. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. A devotee of the Lord can approach the supreme destination easily and happily. But this destination cannot be approached by any other process of religion. Okay, so the same thing is explained at the end of the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where it says, in the final purport, it says, the beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. Okay, they're both verses, the one from the Narayaniya and then also this verse in the 12th chapter, and then the purport of the 8th chapter, 28th verse, is saying that by engaging in devotional service sincerely and surrendering unto the Lord, you surpass all the rituals, all the techniques, all the asanas, yamas, niyamas, all those things, and all the Satyanarayana pujas and all those different pujas and rituals. You surpass all of that. You come to the level of pleasing Lord Vishnu and eventually associating always with Krishna in the spiritual world. And therefore, the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, I'm reading from 12th chapter, 6th and 7th verse, the purport, the last paragraph. The conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is stated in the 18th chapter, Sarvadharmam Parityajya Mam Ekam Saranam Rajaham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Muksaishyami Ma Suchaha. One should give up all other processes of self-realization and simply execute devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That will enable one to reach the highest perfection of life. There is no need for one to consider the sinful actions of his past life because the Supreme Lord fully takes charge of him. Therefore, one should not futilely try to deliver himself in spiritual realization. Let everyone, that's what the materialists are trying to do. They're trying to deliver themselves, right? But through scientific research and speculation and philosophy and business. They're trying to control the laws of material nature. They're trying to emulate the laws of material nature. And it's a whole failure. They're not succeeding at all. Have they succeeded in eliminating disease, you tell me? No. Every time they eliminate some disease, another one comes. Have they succeeded in eliminating death? No. They're promising it. They've been promising it for 2,000 years, but everyone's dying still, right? Have they succeeded in stopping wars? No. They started the UN. They spend billions of dollars every year. They haven't stopped any wars. The wars are still taking place. So everything that they're trying to control, they haven't been able to control. Birth, have they stopped birth? No. They came up with all kinds of techniques to stop birth, right? Abortions and pills and this thing and that thing. I mean, if you go through all the lists of things they have, pregnancy stopping techniques and, killing the baby outright, killing the baby, or trying to kill the baby with drugs. Still, the population's increasing. They haven't stopped birth. They haven't stopped death. They haven't stopped old age. They haven't stopped disease. So what good is their science? You see, they claim, oh well, we're on the cusp of just finishing the solution to cancer. No, they haven't finished it. And they just said, well, send us some more money, and then we're working on it. No, that's all nonsense. Why? Because they're laws of nature. You cannot overcome them. But yet they're trying to do something impossible. Just like why they haven't stopped cancer. Because they're trying to do it genetically, and that's impossible. You cannot genetically stop cancer, because cancer is a genetic, what do you call it? A genetic anomaly. It doesn't. It screws up the genetics of the body. Therefore, people die. It produces cells that revolt against the body and kill the good cells. So they think the solution is through genetic research. And that's why they've been collecting money to heal cancer for like 70 years now. Every year they collect more and more money for cancer research. So we see birth, death, old age, and disease. These are laws of nature. You cannot overcome them. Okay. So it says, one should give up all other processes of self-realization and simply execute devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That will enable one to reach the highest perfection of life. There's no need for one to consider the sinful actions of his past life, because the Supreme Lord fully takes charge of him. Therefore, one should not futilely try to deliver himself in spiritual realization. Let everyone take shelter of the supreme omnipotent Godhead, Krishna. That is the highest perfection of life. Well, this idea of surrendering to God, this is something that people are taught not to do in schools by modern education. They're trying to convince people that you don't have to surrender to God. Anyway, God doesn't exist. Right? It's a fairy tale. If it makes you feel good, okay, but understand that real salvation is through science. It's not through God. That's what they're trying to convince everyone. And most people are convinced of that. See? So now, Prabhupada writes about this in depth. There's a book that he wrote that you will not find in the BBT, but it's written by Prabhupada. It's called In Search of the Ultimate Goal of Life. And he begins, he says, while on tour of South India, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived on the banks of the river Godavari, where he met Sri Ramananda Raya, a great devotee of Sri Krishna. Now, we've read about this before. It's directly in the Srimad Bhagavatam, on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we've talked about it. But now we're going to go into real depth. This book is an amazing book. It's talking about the same thing, but giving many new examples of Prabhupada's experience. So he says, he met Sri Ramananda Rai, a great devotee of Sri Krishna. Lord Chaitanya expressed a deep desire to hear about Sri Krishna from the lips of Ramananda Raya, and requested that Ramananda recite a verse from the revealed scriptures concerning the ultimate goal of life. Ramananda then replied, Swadharma charane Vishnu bhakti haya. If a person performs prescribed duties of his social position, he awakens his original Krishna consciousness. Supporting this statement, Ramananda then cited a verse from the Vishnu Purana 3.8.9. Varnashrama charavata purushena parakpumam Vishnur aradyate pantas nanyat tattusakaranam. The personality Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper performance of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashrama. There is no other way to satisfy the personality Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the 4 Varnas and Ashramas. Now, next paragraph, which Prabhupada entitles, Varna and Ashrama Jeopardized. Hearing this statement from Ramananda Raya, Lord Chaitanya replied that the system of Varna Ashrama Dharma was external, and thus it was not acceptable. Lord Chaitanya also rejected the statement of Ramananda because the system of Varna Ashrama Dharma, now jeopardized by the influence of the present age of Kali, the age of quarrel and fighting. In the Bhagavad Gita, the personality Godhead declares that Varnashram system is created by him, although he is aloof from such a system. Because the Varnashrama system is a creation of the personality Godhead, it is not possible to do away with it. However, the nefarious activities of the people, nefarious means very bad, even evil activities of the people, Nefarious. I looked that up. However, the nefarious activities of people of the age of Kali can jeopardize the Varnashrama system. We have purposely used the word jeopardize because the whole system still exists, but in a reflected form. So a reflected form means a false, something false. Like when you see the reflection of your face in the mirror, you say, oh, that's me. But it's not really you see. It's just a reflection. So the Varnashram system that's practiced today, that's been renamed the caste system in India, is not the real Varnashram system. It's a perverted reflection of it. That's why it's not succeeding, and it's causing many problems in people's lives. It's not solving any problems, it's making problems. Okay, what does it say?
Wicked or criminal.
Yes. Yeah. Very bad, I said evil or wicked or criminal. Yeah. So the activities of people in this age are nefarious. They're wicked or criminal. Why? Because they're violating the laws of nature. And those laws are, you have the list, right, Prabhu?
First 7 points I had sent, and I have a full list as well.
Well, I want to send it to me. I want you to send it to me.
I had sent Maharaj, so
The full list?
no.
Yeah, that's why I said you have to send it to me. Okay.
I had sent only first 7 Maharaj.
Now you can send the rest.
Yes,
Okay. So Prabhupada continues. In the Varnashrama system of social management, the aim of life is to attain the favor of Lord Vishnu. Now, why does he say Lord Vishnu? Why doesn't he just say Krishna? Because Vishnu is a plenary expansion of Krishna, and he's talking about Shirodakshai Vishnu, and the Varnashram system. If you see Indian posters of the Varnashram system, you'll see a picture of Vishnu, and then you see the 4 Varnas. There's a famous poster like that. There's the Brahmana, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and the Sudra, and each one is doing something and offering it to the Lord. There's a poster like that. Have you ever seen that poster? Huh? No? You have Lord Vishnu, he has 4 arms, right? He's standing. And then the Brahmana, the Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra are sitting below him or below him, and they're doing things and offering to the Lord. Brahmana is offering his glorification of the Lord. The Kshatriya is protecting the people. The Vaishya is protecting the cows and handling money. And the Sudras are serving the other 3 castes, or the other 3 categories of people. So you see anything? You see a poster like that? Anyway, there is one. Okay, and it's famous. So then it says, because the whole purpose of the Varnashram system is to please Lord Vishnu, who is you could say along with Prakriti, Vishnu impregnates Prakriti. Okay. And it says, in the Varnashram system of social management, the aim of life is to attain the favor of Lord Vishnu, the all-pervading personality of Godhead. Unfortunately, at the present moment, the aim of life is to displease the all-pervading Godhead and thereby suffer perpetually under the laws of material nature. The goal of the Varnashram system is to peacefully perform the prescribed duties of humanity and thereby achieve the highest success, namely the favor of Lord Vishnu, But when the aim of life is the planned exploitation of material nature, all life is jeopardized on account of the human race fighting with the laws of nature. Did you find the poster? Yes?
Not exactly, but it looks like in these four directions, but
Okay.
it's not the same.
Well, anyways, it's the same idea, though. Okay, that's
So
good.
the Brahmana and the Kshatriya and some farmer.
Yeah, and the Vaishya and the Sudra. Okay, it's in Back to God. There's another one that I was thinking of, but this is the same one, the same idea, yeah. And Lord Krishna is in the middle, right? Does he have 4 arms or 2 arms?
This is 2 arms.
2 arms, yeah. The other poster is Vishnu with 4 arms. But Vishnu and Krishna are the same person. So, the goal of the Varnashram system is to peacefully perform the prescribed duties of humanity and thereby achieve the highest success, namely the favor of Lord Vishnu. So, this is a type. Varnashram system is a type of social management, managing the people in society, so that they cooperate with each other. And they all make spiritual advancement, and they can all go back to Godhead if they follow it properly. What he's saying is they're not following properly. Lord Chaitanya is rejecting the statement of Ramananda Rai. Although the statement is Vedic, it's correct, but it's not being followed properly now because people are engaged in nefarious activities, evil or criminal activities. Criminal in the sense of violating the laws of nature. Right? So the goal of the Varnashram system is to peacefully perform the prescribed duties of humanity and thereby achieve the highest success, namely the favor of Lord Vishnu. But when the aim of life is the planned exploitation of material nature, all life is jeopardized on account of the human race fighting with the laws of nature. That's what's going on now. They're promising us, oh yeah, Calico Company started by Google, will solve the problem of death. You know, and then their top scientists, Kurt, what's his name? His name is Kurt Weil. He's saying, well, you know, by 2050, death will be optional. That means if you want to die, you can, but you don't have to because we will have solved the problem of death. And he's taking 60 types of supplements every day so that he can live to get to 2050, which he won't, right? But see, it's just nonsense. It's all nonsense. It's all pie in the sky. So now Prabhupada says, the arrangement of nature is so strict that even a slight violation of the laws of nature can do great harm to a conditioned human being. So how many laws of nature do you have? 38? Right? And there are more also. There's 38 laws of nature. Do you know? Do people know any of them? Do they teach this in school? No. It's impossible to overcome the laws of nature. People don't even know about it, and they're teaching in school that we're going to overcome it. This is nonsense. This is misleading people. So, even a slight violation of the laws of nature can do great harm to a conditioned human being. Human beings must always consider themselves to be living under the stringent, it's a very good word, stringent, stringent laws of nature. They must always remember that their plans for breaking nature's laws will bring about tremendous hardship. Regrettably, human beings under the deluding influence of material nature want to lord it over the laws of nature, and as such, they are more and more entangled in conditioned life. The more they're attempting to overcome the laws of nature, the more they get entangled. Yes? Stringent.
Strict, precise, and exacting.
Exacting means you can't overcome it. Right? So they're trying to overcome something that's impossible. Just like they're trying to heal cancer by genetic manipulation. It's impossible. Everything they're doing, they're trying to go to Mars. They're trying to go to the moon. It's impossible. But yet, they're trying to convince people that it is possible. And they're lying. Oh, we went to the moon in 1959. No, they didn't go to the moon. It's a lie. The whole thing's a hoax. Right? They're still trying to go to the moon today. They're still trying to go to the moon. At one point they said, well, there's no use going to the moon. There's no water there. We'll go to Mars. Well, there is water on the moon. What are you talking about? Anyway, there are people on the moon. They can't see them, but they're there. It says, regrettably, human beings, under the deluding influence of material nature, want to lord it over the laws of nature, and as such, they are more and more entangled in conditioned life. Foolish human beings do not see the defect of their so-called advancement of knowledge. The most difficult problems of life are birth, death, old age, and disease. These four problems are a permanent settlement for the conditioned soul. Settlement meaning it's a finality for everyone. They can't escape it. Human beings want to lord it over the laws of nature, but their so-called advancement of scientific knowledge cannot solve these problems. There it is. Prabhupada is saying science is not going to solve these problems. What are they saying? Oh, we're going to solve these problems. You see, they're lying. And we're so stupid, we accept those lies and put our hopes in those lies. And it's a tragedy. It's misleading people. It's making them waste their whole life thinking that science will solve all problems. If you don't believe me, okay, look up on the internet right now. Will science eventually solve all problems of life? Look that up. A continuous increase of world population to the proportion of 3 births in every second has puzzled the brains of the leaders of society. To solve the problem of birth, they put forward rascal plans of birth control under the name of family planning, yet the problem is unsolved. By the laws of nature, the population is ever increasing in spite of all their scientific plans and schemes. On the whole, the problem of birth has remained unsolved. Yes, what does it say? Can science solve all the problems of humanity?
I think it's from one of the websites. It says, how can science solve all of our problems? Science cannot solve all of our problems. While scientific understanding can help battle things like disease, hunger, and poverty when applied properly, it does not do so completely and automatically. Furthermore, there are many areas of life where science can have little impact. Let us look at some of the reasons why this is so. It goes on, Maharaj. But yeah, they're talking about hunger. Do you want me to go
Now,
ahead?
look, you look at other places, you'll see they're promising to solve all the problems. That's it. And even what they say, no, it can't solve, but it'll make it easier or more palatable or more comfortable for people. That's also a lie. What was the wording on that?
Which one?
It says they can't solve, but they will make it easier or more.
Yeah, science cannot solve all of our problems, while scientific understanding can help battle things like disease, hunger, and poverty.
Can help what?
Can help battle.
Battle.
Yeah.
Fights.
Like battle things like disease, hunger, and poverty when applied properly. And another example they are giving is again.
Wait a minute. You engage in a battle to succeed, to control something, right? So that's why they're asking for money all the time. We're in the battle right now, and we're gonna win. We're gonna win this battle, right? So Clinton, that's the way he talks. We're gonna win the battle, or Obama, we're gonna win that battle. They're not gonna win any battle. They can battle it. It's like a war. That's the whole point. They're at war with the laws of nature. That's crazy. You see, they use that word battle. That reveals their whole mindset. That they think that eventually they will succeed. Right now, they haven't done it, but they will. They'll eventually win the fight. See?
And they're giving a good example that Jnana and Vijnana that we talk about, Maharaj, is, for instance, science has found that regular exercises can lower risk of heart disease. Knowing this fact is interesting, but it will not do anything for your personal health unless you act on it and actually exercise. And that's the hard part. Reading an article about exercise is easy. Getting into an actual routine of regular exercise is harder.
So they're saying that exercise will do it, but you guys are so dumb you don't want to do it, right? But no, that won't do it. You'll die anyway, even if you're the best exerciser in the world. Okay, what time is it now?
7:18.
Okay. So we're going to go through this whole book, but because it's in parallel with what we're reading.
So, Maharaj, the other day I saw a video. This Maradona, who was the great football player, right?
What? Oh,
Maradona?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the South American. Yeah.
So the video was about like, okay,
His whole life was a mess.
Yeah, so he's being assisted to walk. And then the next video was like, okay, how fast he was with the ball running on the field. So maybe he was very, very active, but still, like, he messed up so much. So
At the end of his life.
yeah.
He was like fat and he couldn't walk. He was being assisted by nurses and
But he had very bad habits.
yeah.
Very bad habits.
Yeah.
Did all the bad things.
Yeah.
But he was like a god to the Brazilians. Right? They considered him like God because he was, he beat the Germans and he beat the Americans. He was like to them he was God. But he died a fat God. Yes.
Maharaj, also it's saying that one other website is saying that no, science cannot solve all our problems because the full and appropriate application of science validated principles is precluded by counterproductive human behaviors, including opposing belief systems, uninformed or inept leaders, and widespread opposition in the general population for intervening as science would dictate.
In other words, they're saying nobody's listening to us. We have the solution, but they're not listening. That's nonsense.
For example, science founded programs to reduce the global population or change the availability of food and water, or worse, or establish equity amongst equity among nations and races would be opposed on the grounds of religion, politics, or personal beliefs.
Again, they're saying the people who have religion or the politicians, they're opposing our perfect solution to all problems of life. But they don't have any their strategies will not perfect or will not solve the problems of life. They're trying to blame the people for their own failures. You see, that's a trick of these demons. They'll blame you for their failures. They say, well, you're not smart enough to follow what we're saying. That's why it's not working. But if you follow what we say, then it'll work. You'll become eternal. We can freeze you. You'll be eternal. Yeah. What? Freeze you? If they freeze someone, he won't be alive. He'll be dead. They're just talking nonsense. And they're trying to cover themselves by blaming the people, blaming the religionists, blaming the politicians, blaming this, blaming that. But they're claiming that their thing is the solution. Is that right or wrong? Everything you read, they're saying it doesn't succeed because the people are not following science properly. Okay, we'll talk some more about this. Hari Bol. All glories to Prabhupada. You see how tricky they are. Tricky dicky. Very tricky people. They're blaming you for their failure.
Maharaj, you had mentioned about people are trying to do impossible things because of their sin or sinful life.
Yes.
So how it just directly come from? Like if someone is doing sinful activities, they should fall down more.
They are.
But how they are getting the power or energy to empower these many misconceptions?
No,
I'm
it's
never able to correlate like how they are able to do the impossible things.
they're bluffing. It's called bluffing, right? Just like Pakistan says, well, if India, even they do this, and we're going to blow them up. We're going to kill all of them. They're going to all die. This is a bluff. They're just saying things they know is not true, but to scare people. So they're blaming their failures on the people that they say they don't want to follow, the religionists, the politicians, and so forth. That's nonsense. If their thing worked, everyone would follow. But none of it works. It just makes things more worse, life more worse with their, the mask mandate. You have to wear a mask inside, outside. It's nonsense. Let's talk about immunity. Don't talk about masks. Masks is not going to stop anything. It might stop some dust getting into your lungs, but it's not going to really stop the disease. But if you have a good immune system, that would stop it. And even if with a good immune system, even if you get the disease, you'll be able to overcome it.
Just like cancer, Maharaj, again, they are always talking about how to cure cancer, right? They never again go to the root cause of why cancer is coming. So the whole
root
English
causes,
medicine
people are
is about
exposed to poisonous things all the time.
Exactly. All you have to do
Carpets,
is just
paint, so many poisonous things. Preservatives, and there's a cumulative collection of those things in your liver and your blood, and you get cancer. If you keep throwing trash in your house, eventually you can't live in a house anymore. It's full of trash. The same way, people are eating trash, seeing trash, hearing trash. Eventually, it kills you. Okay. Who's going to sing? Is it Charan is going to sing? Where is he hiding? Oh, he's hiding behind the computer. Here. Give them out. Yeah. Go ahead.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sanma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Namo Isavadhana Mate
Mandomu Isavadana Ate
Jahara Prasadevai Eva Bhatoriya Jai Jahara Prasad Oi Jaha Oi Te mukha padma vakya chitite koriya kya.
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitite Koriya Kya.
Arana kori ho mane asha.
Arana Koriya Mane Asa.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati.
Ye prasad pure sarva sha.
Pasade Pure Sarva Asa.
Chakshudan dilo jai janme janme Prabhu sai.
Chakshudana Dila Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se.
Divignan hriday prakasito.
Divya Gyani De Prakasito.
Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasha jate.
Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasahajate.
Ved jai jahala charito.
Vede Gai Janaracharito.
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu.
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu.
Dolokena Lokera Jivana.
Lokinath Lokera Jivana.
Aha Prabhu Karo Doya Deho More Pata Chaya.
Ha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha Mori Pada Chaya.
Evichas Yoshotri Bhavana.
Vede Gai
Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Namah Vishnuvadaya Napeshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Aminiti Namine.
Namah Subhadaya Namesaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine.
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pasatya Dishatarine. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Tagora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jayom Vishnupad, Paramahansa Pararajika Chasta Tarasarta Shri Simad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vindakiji, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Kiji, Prem Sukhosa Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivedanta Kiji, Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Samkunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Kiji, Shri Vrindavan Dham Kiji, Mayapura Dham Kiji, Jagannath Puri Dham Kiji, Tulasi Devi Kiji, Bhakti Devi Kiji, Gangamaya Kiji, Jamuna Maya Kiji, Samaveda Bhaktivedanta Kiji, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the symbol devotees, all glories to the symbol devotees, all glories to the symbol devotees, all glories to Shiguru and Shiguranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan Kiji. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasna Namaste Saraswati Devi Visesa Sunyavadi Paskati Visita. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish, to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the share of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread through all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavani Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Namaste Saraswati Devi Visesa Sunyavadi Paskati.